right, so in this lesson, we're going to be talking about rhythm ideas and some fill licks and things that you can play outside of just strumming chords. I love doing lessons like this because they're real-world scenarios. If you're ever playing with other musicians, typically when there's other guitar players, somebody's already strumming the chords anyway, and so you have to do some things to kind of fill in the space and even sound a little more sophisticated. And to me, something like that, it's still hinting at the chords, and you're playing chunks of those chords or fragments of those chords, but you're not just strumming the entire chord, which is kind of boring. So anyway, that's what this lesson's all about, is to give you those kinds of ideas. And it's actually fairly simple to do. Once you see what we're doing here, you'll be able to apply this to your playing right away. So I've got the lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to go through the first half of the song. If you'd like to learn the second half, download the tablature, download the MP3 jam tracks, which I have in multiple tempos. You can get those things by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP403. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, and if you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button, click the alert bell so that you can be notified, and that way you can stay in touch and know when I put out new lessons, which I do all the time. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the chord structure here. So we have 4 chords that we're going to be working on. It's a D, an A C sharp minor, and a B minor, or a C sharp minor 7 and a B minor 7. Depends on how you look at it. Actually, right there, I'm playing the minor 7, but for the most part, I'm just playing the C sharp minor and the B minor when I'm playing this. So the number structure for this would be a 4, 1, 3, 2. Kind of an untypical chord format. Typically we start with the 1 chord. That's your usual scenario. But in this case, we're starting with the 4 chord, creating some tension, and then releasing that tension to the 1 chord. That's what music is. It's always tension and release. When you boil it down to the scientific explanation of what music is, it's a series of tension and release. So we're starting with the 4, going to the 1. And so those are the 4 chords we're going to be working with in this video. D, A, C sharp minor, and B minor. So the first thing you need to do is get familiar with those 4 chords. And I would recommend doing this anytime you're trying to improvise and play over chord changes, but instead of just jumping in and playing lead. And that's what I used to do. And I would learn the hard way. I'd have to fumble around a lot. I've learned that it's so much easier just to spend a little time up front and play through the chords and just kind of get them into your head and start to visualize them. Then it all starts to become easier. So start down here, D, A, C sharp minor, B minor, and then you could do it up here to get in 2 positions, and you've got these options here for where you can start to play. So we're going to start with that D chord, and the first lick that I played sounds like that. And then we're going to go to the A. So D to the A. Now I'm not playing a D the way we would think about playing, like a triad or, you know, a 3-note chord. I'm really just taking a fragment of that chord. So I'm taking 2 notes out of it. So what I'm doing is I'm picturing this D shape, this D chord right here, using the A shape out of Cage. So you want to think about that or picture that chord, and then look at the top part of that chord, which is a triad, very commonly used. And when you can picture that triad, this hammer-on makes sense. You can see what you're doing. You're just hammering on into that chord, or into the first 2 strings of it. So we're going to bar the first 2 strings on the 5th fret, play strings 1 and 2, and then hammer onto the 7th fret, 2nd string. That's the first thing we're going to do. And you've got a lot of options right here off of this chord shape. So you can play, you can go up 1, you can come off of it and just play behind the bar there. And you can get, you know, a lot of little fill licks and ideas just out of that. You can bend into a note, which we're going to do here in a minute. But to me, it has that pedal steel sound, and it just sounds kind of country, kind of blues, and it works really well over this kind of thing. So we're going to start with that. And by the way, quiz yourself. Don't just take that and just go run with it. Like, try and right now, pause the video and play over an E chord using the A shape. So that would be up here. So you've got... So play around with it in a few spots just to kind of get it into your mind. That's the first thing we're going to do. So we play that, and then we land on the 7th fret, 3rd string, and then I came down and went, I love the sound of this. All that is, if you look at this, we're landing on this, which is these 2 strings, And those are 2 strings and your A chord. Now I could have very easily that's your A triad there, the top part of this bar chord. So I could have went, and that would have been fine. But since I did a hammer on here, why not do a hammer on here? And by the way, we're hammering on to the 3rd interval in the chord. So when you're doing this, you're hammering on to your 3rd, starting a whole step down, or 2 frets down. And we're going to do the same thing here, hammering on to the 3rd. So I don't need to play that full triad. I just need 2 notes of the triad, which are these 2 notes. And so to get that hammer on and go a full step down, we have to start here in this shape. So that's my index finger on the 4th fret 3rd string, middle finger on the 5th fret 2nd string, and I hammer on with my ring finger to the 6th fret 3rd string. Really cool sound, but now you know what that is in relation to this chord or this triad, however you want to think of it. So if you wanted to do that for a G, for example, you could go, right? And you can also play it in other spots. I could play it on strings 3 and 4 if I wanted up here, you know, connecting it to that C shape out of cage. So you've got different options for this little hammer on. It's a great technique. And actually these first 4 chords, this is all we're doing. We're hammering on into those 2 note fragments of those chords. And then we're going to go to the C sharp minor, right? So I'm picturing this C sharp minor up here where I've got my bar on the 9th fret. And I'm barring the first 3 strings to play that though, and I'm only playing strings 2 and 3. And I'm doing a hammer on to the 11th fret 3rd string. Then coming off of that hammer on to the 9th fret there, strings 2 and 3. And then down to the 11th fret 4th string. It's the same looking thing that we did here, right? But it works off of this minor chord. The way that you want to think about this is picture the bar. When you're playing a minor chord using the E minor shape out of Caged, picture the bar and let that be sort of a wall. You know, it looks like a wall, I guess. And then you've got your minor pentatonic that runs into that wall. Every other note is hitting the wall. And so when you're playing these little fills, these notes that I'm doing over here are just in that minor pentatonic scale for that chord. So hopefully that makes sense. So I'm playing the C sharp minor pentatonic scale. And I've got all these little licks that work. Now that's working if it's a minor chord because it's the minor pentatonic scale. But that's what's going on when I play that. And I can come down and play it, you know, on strings 4 and 3 as well. And you hear that kind of rumbling sound. I associate that with Jimi Hendrix and, you know, just embellishments off of chords. So let's back it up from the beginning. We have... And then we go to the B minor. And I do the same thing I was just talking about, but we're going to slide it down 2 frets. I'm going to play strings 4 and 3, and I'm going to do a hammer on to the 9th fret 4th string. But you can understand why that's working now. And look at what you can do now with these chords. I mean, if you get nothing else, you've already got what took me 10 years to figure out. I mean, in just that short amount of time, you've got these little... You know, I'm just messing around, Hendrix-y, sort of, but you can see kind of how it works off of the chord shapes. I'm not kidding when I said it took me 10 years. I mean, pre-internet, this stuff was impossible to figure out. For me, it was. I'm a slow learner, but anyway, I'm jealous of everyone that has that resource. All right, so that's our first 4 chords: D, A, C sharp minor, B minor. Now after that, the song goes into another little part that goes B minor, A. Then we play A, E, which is our 5 chord. And then we reset the whole thing back to the same thing that we started with. So that's what we're going to be playing over now is B minor, A, E. So it's really 3 chords, B minor, A, and E. So as we stay on that B minor, I went like this. I played some single string notes, a little lead part that goes... And that's what we're going to learn here. This is just minor pentatonic scale. I was thinking about that B minor, and I was thinking about that minor pentatonic scale that we just talked about here. And I just walked up the minor pentatonic scale. 7th fret, 9th fret. On the 4th string, 3rd string. And then we come to the 2nd string and go 7, 10. So we have... And then I come up to the 1st string and do a hammer-on between the 7th fret and the 9th fret on that 1st string. And then you do this really cool slide from the 8th fret back to the 7th fret on the 1st string. So all together that lick goes... And I landed on the 10th fret 2nd string. And the reason I landed on that is that's where the song goes to the A chord. And so I'm playing this A note here with my ring finger, and watch this. These other two, I can leave that finger down and these other fingers fall into place to make the D shape. Hopefully a light bulb just went off for some of you. It hasn't gone off for all of you, but it's about to. But you can see what's going on there. As I'm holding that A note, these two fingers come down and I can now play the A triad. And so it's just right in position for that. So what I was kind of thinking of that, I think, when I was coming up with this part, that I could go into that A chord there. And then I could go a little A sus4 by adding my pinky to the 10th fret 1st string. And then down to the E chord. And look at that. I'm playing the same shape, but I just slid it down here. Now my middle finger's on the 4th fret 1st string. So hopefully you can understand what's going on there from that B minor to the A to the E. We went. All right, so that's the first time through. Let me back up and I'll play along with a slow version of it with the jam track so that you can hear everything in context. 1, 2, 3. All right, so now we're going to loop back through that entire chord progression one more time. I'm going to give you some different ideas this second time. So we're going to start with, and what that is that's the D chord, same way we started it the first time, but this time I'm going to do a half bend on the second string 7th fret. Bend and release. While I'm playing that 5th fret 1st string, you're playing both at the same time. And then down to that 7th fret 4th string, or 7th fret 3rd string. And now we're going to do a hammer on strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret, hammer on to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then the 7th fret 4th string. So all together, the lick this time from the D to the A goes like this. Right? And then we go to the C sharp minor, down to the B minor. So you can see what I'm doing there. I'm just playing a triad. I'm thinking about the chord, and I'm just playing the top 3 strings of that chord. So I slid into it. That would be the 9th fret strings. Well, I slid into the 3rd string, and then I hit the 1st string with an upstroke. All right, I hit strings 1 and 2. It doesn't matter. You're trying to hit that triad anyway. And then we walked it down chromatically down to the B minor. And that's when I say chromatically, that's just filling in the gap in between. And you can do that with music. Anytime you've got like 2 notes that are a whole step apart, you can play that in-between note. And for the most part, it's always going to work. You just don't want to overdo it. If you do it too much, it starts to sound like you don't know what you're doing. But if you do it a little bit, it sounds like you really know what you're doing. It's kind of weird how that works. Okay. Now, when I came down to here, a little embellishment there, 9th fret 1st string with my pinky. You can use your ring finger if that's easier. Okay, so then after that I went, that's where we go from the B minor back to the A. And so what I played was that same little embellishment we already did before, barring the first 4 strings, but playing strings 4 and 3 on the 7th fret, but hammering onto the 9th fret 4th string. And then we're going to slide that up 2 frets, bar the first 4 strings in the 9th fret, do the hammer on, and then my middle finger goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string, and you can see what chord I'm making there. I'm playing the A chord. using the C shape, but I'm just playing the triad there. That's the guts of that chord anyway. Like that. So you have... Isn't that a cool way to go from a B minor to an A? Sounds so pretty and so much more advanced or sophisticated or thought out to me than just going, you know? I mean, that works too, but... And then I went... Little lick there that just gets us back to the where the song goes to the E. So 10th fret 2nd string, and then we go to the 9th fret 2nd string and do a half bend to get back to that same note we just played. This is a technique I use quite a bit, kind of a country thing. Bend and release, 11th fret, 9th fret on the 3rd string. And that's where we're gonna wrap up this part 1 video. That's all the information. I'm gonna back up and play through it one more time, both parts, the first time through and then the second time through, so that you can hear it in context with the jam track, and that'll wrap up this first part. Now there's another part, so you don't want to miss out on that. There's also obviously the tablature, the MP3 jam track, the on-screen tab viewer. You have access to all of those things as a premium member. So if you're not a premium member yet, look into it. I would encourage you to do so. It's very affordable, and I have many, about 10 years worth of lessons like this, very in-depth. This is perfect for those of you that are looking to improvise and just become more proficient that way. All right, so let's look through this part 1 one more time, and then I'll see you in part 2. 1.